Coming to you from the studios of SFC, this is the NFL Rumor Mill. I'm Tyler Pandolfo alongside Brian Mansell. NFL free agency has begun this week. There's been a lot of activity, a lot of trades being made, a lot of free agents being signed. Brian, who do you think is the biggest winner as far as trades go?
Well, when you talk about trades, the first team that pops up, in my opinion, is the Browns. I mean, come on. You have Jarvis Landry there, and they needed a second piece at the receiving corps to fix it. Rashad Perriman wasn't that guy, even though they were going to sign him, and Tampa ended up taking him. So getting Odell Beckham from the Giants was one of the smartest moves I've seen the Browns pull so far, and probably ever. Because although they gave up a lot, like the first-round pick, the third-round pick, and the phenomenal safety, the young one, Jabril Peppers. Only, what is this, his second year?
Yeah. It's his second
So
year.
his second season, he came out and he showed out, showing his potential. That's going to help the Giants too, and it just feels like it's balanced on both sides. Now the Browns have an explosive offense with two former LSU buddies, with Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham, working with second-year receiver Antonio Callaway. And now you've given Baker Mayfield the chance to take the Browns to the playoffs for the first time in over a decade. I mean, you can't get any better than that.
Well, I actually think the Giants are the biggest winners as far as trades go. I mean, they got a guard in Kevin Zeitler, who's going to be very effective for that offensive line. He's going to really help Eli Manning have a lot of protection. And Olivier Vernon, I mean, he's been hurt the last 2 years. He'll go to the Browns. He'll get a fresh start, new start. And as far as the Beckham trade, the Giants got a first-rounder. They got a big haul. They got Jabril Peppers, who's not a great safety, but he's a solid safety. They got a first-round pick, and they got a third-round pick. And again, Beckham's going to be a headache for the Browns. I mean, he's already asking for new contractual demands. So I think that Beckham's going to be a headache. He didn't win anything in New York, and I think the Giants could be the Giants again. Really, they can really be effective. It's a new era.
I can really understand your point with the Giants. I really do. But are you also implying that the Browns lost?
I think the Browns. I don't think they lost necessarily. I think that Vernon needed a new start. I think he's been injury prone these last 2 years. I think he could help. He could still play for the Browns. He's not a scrub. So I mean, he's a solid player. And as far as Beckham goes, he just has an attitude problem. He wants a new contract, and he didn't even play for the team yet. So I mean, he's just going to be a headache, and I don't think the Browns could afford that right now.
I understand your point there. Who do you think lost? Really lost?
I really think. Well, again, I don't really think there were any concrete losers. I just think again, back to the Browns. I think they have to be very cautious with Beckham. He's not really a good leader, and I think that it's just, I don't think it's going to work. I don't see how that's going to work. I think he has a lot of talent, but I think that his attitude is going to override it like it did with the Giants.
So I understand your point and where you're coming from here, but I also do believe,
as far as them being losers, there's a chance that they could be losers, but I don't think on paper that they are losers at this very moment.
Okay. Well, in my opinion, I really think that the Browns killed it. I don't know where you're seeing that there's going to be an issue here. Maybe with the contract, but with the money that the Browns have, this isn't going to be an issue. Look at all the free agent signings they had.
I understand your point. It's just that I think that right now you have to see it the way it was in New York. Beckham, they didn't win. They didn't win anything with Vernon and Beckham. So they have something to prove. They have a chip on their shoulder.
All right. Well, let me just move on here, and let me say to you that I think the worst team to come out of this entire trade fiasco was the Steelers. And this is going back all the way maybe a week, 2 weeks ago. When you look at it on paper, what did the Steelers really get?
Well, if you're referring to the Brown trade, I mean, they really didn't get much. I mean, they got a third-round pick and a fifth-round pick, but it's not really going to help them win now. They have to win now. And they losing Le'Veon Bell, losing Antonio Brown, it's just, Roethlisberger needs weapons, and that's the main thing that's going to get them over the top.
The way to put it is that the fact that you let Antonio Brown go for so little is a massive issue. You gave him up for a 3rd and 5th round pick. When the Patriots made an offer for you to take him for a 2nd and 4th round pick, I understand why you didn't want to send him to the Patriots because it's competition. But right now, you need to focus on your future. And the fact that you refused to send him to the Patriots blows my mind.
Again, he's another headache to deal with, just like Beckham. But again, the return for Brown was an awful return. They should have gotten at least a 2nd round pick to start. So, I mean, the Steelers really just were desperate to get rid of him because Brown was requesting a trade, and they said, you know what, our hands are tied at this point.
Well, although that is true, I have to say that the Raiders really did get a steal out of that. It was perfect.
Absolutely.
Now you got him paired with Jordy Nelson. I mean, that's perfect for Derek Carr. It's a perfect setup. I think John Gruden hit it out of the park, landing him.
Well, yeah, now
the Steelers are in a hole.
Now,
after Juju Smith-Schuster, your top receivers are James Washington and Eli Rogers. They just signed on a 1-year deal. I mean, you can't make this up. You can't make this up.
See, you hit it right on the head. The Raiders have weapons. You hit it right on the head. I agree with you 100%.
Okay.
Ready, we ready, we ready for y'all. We ready. Say what? Say what? We ready. We ready for y'all.
Welcome back. Let's move on to the next topic here. Free agency signings. I mean, there were so many that happened. This is probably the craziest one we have seen, at least in my lifetime. We have winners, we have losers. It's an entire mess. It's a real freak show. Tyler, what is your opinion? Who do you think really won free agency?
I think the big winners are going to be the defending Super Bowl champion New England Patriots. They did a couple things. First, they brought back on special teams. They brought back Brandon Bolden. He was with the Dolphins last year. They re-signed Jason McCourty for another 2 years. He played above average at the cornerback position. They also re-signed John Simon, and they also re-signed Philip Dorsett, who had 44 catches in the last 2 years with New England. So they had a pretty solid offseason thus far for the Super Bowl champs.
Don't forget Michael Bennett here.
Oh, absolutely.
Bennett is a massive pick.
Oh, yeah, through the trade. Yep.
Yep. And now, for me, the winners, and it's still in the same division. There's no denying the Jets knocked it out. The Jets probably had, in my opinion, the best free agency signings out of all the teams I've witnessed. I mean, come on. They signed more people to help out Robbie Anderson and the receiving core out there in New York. I mean, after Robbie Anderson, you have Quincy Enunwa, who was injured last season, and now that he's healthy, with Robbie Anderson, you also throw in Jamison Crowder, who you signed, and Josh Bellamy from the Bears. Those are 2 great receivers. Bellamy works well in the slot. Jamison Crowder works well as a wide receiver too. I mean, that was perfect, especially for the offense. And now let's not even leave out the Le'Veon Bell signing. Le'Veon Bell helps the Jets so much. Isaiah Crowell was a great signing last season, but he didn't give them the extra push they needed, hence his release. I mean, they needed something that would give them that extra edge that would take pressure off Sam Darnold to make throws and make his passes so they could make the offense work. And then you look at the defense, they landed C.J. Mosley. C.J. Mosley. I mean, there's no denying that the Jets really went off this year, especially in free agency. I can't deny it, and neither can you.
Do you think that the Jets missing out on Anthony Barr is a big deal for them?
Absolutely not. Let's look at, you look at the draft, and you have look at that, they have like a top 3 pick. that's not going to really hurt them. They can use that for anything. They can use it to get the defensive tackle Quinnen Williams from Alabama. He would really help bolster pressure that would be a real threat to other offenses. Or they can just go with Josh Allen, who's an edge rusher and can be even put in linebacker situations, who can really fill Anthony Barr's slot. I mean, there's so many opportunities you have here with that pick associated with your signings. The Jets have the potential to be a competitor for the wild card and playoffs next year.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Even though there are winners, there are always losers as far as free agency goes. Who do you think is the biggest loser so far in free agency this week?
This may come out of left field here, but I'm going to say the Falcons. Because look at the Falcons and everything they did this free agency. They did pretty much nothing. They didn't really sign anybody to really get a replacement. The only person they signed was James Carpenter, the guard, from the Jets. And that wasn't the position they really needed help in, especially after you just lost Ryan Schrader, your veteran offensive tackle. I mean, how dumb could you really be? This is such a bad move by the Falcons, and not to mention they lose Tevin Coleman. Losing Tevin Coleman loses your 1-2 punch and effect that you have when you have him and Devontae Freeman together. I mean, what is going on, Atlanta?
Well, the thing with Atlanta, there's an enormous amount of pressure on Atlanta right now as far as winning goes. I think you can make the argument that next season they have the most pressure on them. They missed the playoffs. They have a good quarterback in Matt Ryan. They have to win. I mean, especially after losing that Super Bowl, after blowing a 28-3 lead. But back to the losers, I'm going to say the Philadelphia Eagles are the biggest losers. They lost Nick Foles, who's a great backup quarterback, led them to their first Super Bowl title. They lost the linebacker, Jordan Hicks. He had 91 tackles, and he had 6 quarterback hits last season, so he had a great year. They also lost Michael Bennett. He was traded over to the Patriots. And they also lost some compensation. They lost a 7th-round pick, 6th-round pick, but that's not really a big deal. But Michael Bennett, Jordan Hicks, huge losses for the Philadelphia Eagles as far as defense goes.
Yeah, and I don't think they had enough signings that could really counter that and keep that all together and even try to even remotely fix the defense. That is, and plus you lost Golden Tate to free agency. You're probably not going to sign him back. Now you just lost an explosive offensive component you got late last year that really helped Nick Foles and that Eagles offense.
Yeah.
Now you're going back to Carson Wentz. You don't have a running back that can really help you because Smallwood isn't helping and neither is Clement. They're not doing enough to really give the Eagles that extra push in the run game to take pressure off of Wentz. And that's something that they need to fix right now.
Well, they have a lot of work to do. I mean, first of all, Wentz has to stay healthy. That's number one. I mean, if he's not healthy, then the whole team is going to be in shambles. I mean, they lost a lot of good players, and they really have to retool and restock because they have a lot of work to do, in my opinion.
The best way to put it here is that, and I think you can agree with me on this, there is no way the Eagles will even make the playoffs next year. After everything that you've seen, everything they've lost, their defense is weak right now. Their defense needs help. Their offense still has some kind of pressure in there, something that really gives them that extra push. But right now, I don't think they have a playoff quality team. They are missing way too much, and they need too much.
Well, you can make the argument that the NFC East is wide open. I mean, the Redskins have a lot of work to do. The Giants, you really don't know what they're going to do. You have to see how they are after the draft. The Eagles have to restock, as I said. The Cowboys have been good, but they've not been on that great level that you've seen from other teams in the NFC, like the Rams and the Saints. So they're not there yet.
But yet the Cowboys have the best chance of winning the NFC East because I don't think they really lost much.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But again, you could see a team like the Giants if they draft right and sign players and give Eli Manning weapons. You could see the Giants sneak in possibly and win 7 or 8 or 9 games if everything goes right for them. So, I mean, again, a lot of things have to go right, but the NFC is really wide open right now.
I can definitely get behind that. Plus, the Redskins, they also are re-signing Adrian Peterson. That's really going to help out Darius Geich, who missed all of last season because of an injury he suffered before, I think it was in the preseason. And now he's coming back. He really showed a lot of promise in the preseason before he went down with that injury. And now that you have a veteran backing him up, guys can learn from him, and they can really make the run game work again. I think the Redskins have a good chance as well.
Do you think that Case Keenum is going to have a good year with the Redskins and improve their chances?
It all depends. It all depends. Can he really give them something that Alex Smith brought to the team? Because before Alex Smith went down last year, you could easily say that the Redskins had a division in their hands. This was it. The Redskins are making the playoffs. They were going to win. They were going to go far. And then once Alex Smith went down, everything went downhill.
Yeah, you can make that argument
Can
for sure.
Case Keenum give them that vibe and that energy that Alex Smith brought to the team? I don't see it right now. He has to go back to his Minnesota Viking days. If he can tap into that inner Viking, he can really bring them back and win and get them that division title.
I agree with you there. Case Keenum definitely has something to prove. He's got a chip on his shoulder, and if he has the right weapons, if everything goes right, no injuries for the Redskins, they could be competitive. Again, that whole division is the same thing. They could be competitive. But I don't think that anyone's going to win more than 10 games out of that NFC East.
I agree. I do think the only team that can really pose it is the Cowboys.
Yeah.
We already know their situation. So I think that's going to do it for us here. And that will do it for us here at the NFL Rumor Mill. I'm Brian Mansell alongside Tyler Pandolfo. We'll see you next time.